On this episode of the Procedurally Generated Show, Tony goes on an adventure, Ethan reads some manga, and Shannon transcends history and the world in search of a sword reforged. We talk about all of the week's biggest news and answer your questions, and that totally messed with my head. I did not write that sentence, so I don't know what happened. We're gonna leave.
This is
You're
staying in
welcome.
the show.
I was like, wait, as I was reading it, I did not write this. Where did this come from? Is this appropriate for the show? Well, howdy, everybody. Welcome to the Procedurally Generated Show. I'm your host, Tony, and joining me this week, I've got Ethan.
You okay there?
I'm okay. It sounded like Shannon, who is also with us, was about to die a minute ago.
Because I couldn't believe that you went over the intro without reading the intro first. It was pretty good. I'm glad that stayed in there. It threw you off your game.
It
First
did.
take, man. First
Completely.
take.
Yeah, I was messed up. I really should have read through it because I knew there were two pieces that were missing because I hadn't written anything down. But, yeah, you snuck that in there. Good job.
I do my best.
One of these days I'm going to read that and it's totally not going to be appropriate for the show.
Special outtakes just for the Patreons.
Most people will never know. So, Shannon,
Yes, sir.
what exactly did you do to transcend history and the world in search of a sword reforged?
So Shelby and I have been playing fighting games on and off over the past few weekends. It all really kind of stemmed from Dead or Alive coming out a little over a month ago. But this week we took on Soul Calibur 6. And oh my goodness. I'm not sure what happened to Soul Calibur. I don't remember it being this much of an anime fighter.
Okay.
It's become so flashy. It's got a whole lot of the words that Shelby used to describe this game were, it is all style with very little depth. It doesn't seem to have a super deep mechanics system that you need to learn and build upon and engulf yourself into to get good at the game. But it is so stylish, and every character has these big, ridiculous, slow-mo, insane, over-the-top moves now that just didn't seem to be in there in the past. And it just seems way more accessible than Soul Calibur's of previous era. So,
Interesting.
yeah. I don't know if this is a permanent price change, but the game is like $20 at Best Buy. At least it was as of time of this recording. So the game is fairly inexpensive now. It is well more than worth that price of entry. And there is a surprisingly clever set of DLC characters that have been put out for it too.
Okay, how so?
So Tira and Amy were both in previous Soul Calibur games. Tira is the woman who uses the ring blade, like the blade that looks like a
hula hoop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She was actually in the beta because I remember playing the online beta for for Soul Calibur 6, and she was playable in the beta. I did not know upon purchasing the game that she was actually DLC. She was my go-to character in Soul Calibur 3 on the PS2. So definitely ended up getting her for the DLC pack. Amy is the fencer, like the woman who uses a fencing blade with the ringlet pigtails, like the pink hair ringlet pigtails.
Mm-hmm.
Very stylish, kind of like vampire, cutesy. Is her shtick. And she's a DLC character. She was also, I think, in Soul Calibur 5. So they brought back 2 old characters, and the most recent release in DLC was 2B from Nier Automata.
Yep.
Which she fits so well in this universe.
Really?
Like, yeah, it's hard to believe that, like, following through the story mode of this game, how it's going through 15 or like the 1500s, as far as an actual chronological time frame goes, and then to imagine 2B just kind of like going back in time to fight all of these people in search of Soul Edge. It's pretty cool. Which is also something else that's worth pointing out, is every DLC character so far that I have gotten also has their own branching path in the story mode. So that's something else that a lot of fighting games don't typically do. You may be able to, grab those DLC characters and play through arcade mode with them, but you don't always get the privilege of them having their own story path, like tying the character into the main story. So it's kind of cool that they've done that with the DLC characters.
Interesting.
But definitely had a moment with like Shelby and I were going through the roster and just kind of playing everybody, and he picks Ivy and I pick Voldo, and we realize very quickly that those 2 characters are the least PG characters in the game, and that they were both very clearly going to the same party. It just had a good 15 seconds of both of us laughing hysterically while looking at these ridiculous outfits. Like, Voldo literally has spikes over top of his eyeballs in his outfit. There is no way that he can even see. Like, so you remember the old Madonna bra from the 80s? Imagine that, but a pair of goggles over someone's eyes.
That sounds wonderful.
It's pretty bananas.
Yeah, I'm looking this character up because I don't recognize. Oh my lord!
Yeah.
Oh, good. No.
You should see him fight. It's even worse.
Oh,
it's amazing. Baldo's pretty crazy. One thing that Soul Calibur has always done is they've always brought in characters from other franchises. So like Soul Calibur 2, if you got it on the Xbox, you had Spawn. If you got it on the GameCube, you got Link. Mm-hmm. If you got it on
PS2 was
Heihachi. Yeah. In Soul Calibur 4, it was Darth Vader and Yoda. So like if you got the Xbox version, you got Yoda. If you got the PlayStation version, you got Darth Vader.
Didn't people really have a problem with Yoda being in the game?
Yes.
Yeah, because he was so small, you couldn't hit him with high. he was almost impossible to hit on a regular basis.
Yep.
Yes. But the guest character in this game, besides 2B being DLC, it's the Geralt dude from the Witcher series.
From the Witcher, yeah.
And he is another perfect fit. Like, just falls into this universe like he belonged there the whole time.
Yeah, I could see him making sense.
Yeah, he makes perfect sense in the universe, and again, another character that ties into the story very well. So it's cool to see that they're using smart fits. So that's unless you guys want to talk about what I've been playing on the go, that's pretty much it for me.
Okay. You can touch briefly on some of that stuff.
Okay. I'm still going through the yokai games. I very strongly want to try and get through all of the Yokai Watch games on the 3DS. So I played through the first one, and I started about a week ago trying to go through Psychic Specters, which is like the Pokemon Yellow of Yokai Watch 2.
Mm-hmm.
They did like Fleshy Souls, Bony Spirits, and then Psychic Specters was the release that had all of the exclusive characters from the other 2 versions plus its new content. So I'm trying to go through Psychic Specters. I have the Yokai Watch Blasters games that I would like to play with Travis. I think
Okay.
Knowing how much he enjoyed watching the anime for Yokai Watch when it was on Disney XD, I'm kind of hoping that with where his reading level is, maybe we can actually sit down and do the Blasters games together sometime over the summer. So
Yeah, those would probably be good. I noticed that Andrew's reading would improve a lot when there was games that he wanted to play and needed to read a lot of the text on the screen.
yep. And that, talking about Travis's reading, that's one of the other things that came up this week, because the Easter Bunny brought Travis the Labo vehicle kit,
Mm-hmm.
and us sitting down to put that together. It was him reading the instructions to me while we were sitting down on the floor trying to put everything together. Because when we got to steps, I wanted him to actually tell me what was going on screen, trying to get him to actually read the instructions, because that is a good 50% of the experience is putting all that stuff together.
Yeah, and also with Labo, there's that Discover section of all of the Labo games is going to be really good for him if he's interested in, or wanting to better reading skills, because Andrew has done a lot of that as well.
Okay.
So when kids are interested in something, they'll find ways to make it so that they can do all that stuff. So
Absolutely. That's I'm that's kind of what I'm hoping with Yokai. I'm hoping that him having previous experience with the franchise might motivate him to play a game that's a little bit above his reading level, just because he wants to see it to completion. So
well, all right.
That's pretty much it.
Okay. What about you, Ethan?
So, there was some debating before the show for what I should talk about. By debating, it was me asking questions and then getting sidetracked. Because
and what did you decide on?
So, I'm going to talk about some manga I started reading this week.
Okay.
But, I mean, this happened because I finished 2 series off that I've been spending a couple of months reading already. And the fact that, I mean, I could talk Destiny 2, or which is going to be boring because I've talked about that quite a bit already on previous shows and such, and it's nothing new on that. And the other thing I played was like for 30 minutes to an hour, somewhere in there, and so there's no point in talking about that either. So I finished off reading 2 manga series, and I am the kind of person that immediately looks for something brand new to fill that gap that I've finished in this reading segment stuff. And I couldn't decide what to read, and then I kind of stumbled across Shield Hero.
What is that?
It's one of those what are they called? Isekai mangas, where you're a person from like this world, and either you're summoned to another world, or you're in an unfortunate accident and reincarnated in another world. And usually it's a fantasy setting, and there's video game elements that are included along with the awakening in the other world. And the character you usually have a bunch of bonuses to stats or something. Shield Hero is one of those where him and 3 other guys he's never met before get transported to this world as heroes. We have Lance Hero, Sword Hero, Bow Hero, and Shield Hero.
Okay.
He can only use a shield.
No weapons at all?
If he picks up a sword, it'll say, like, improper weapon or something, and, like, this sword explodes and knocks him to the ground or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have to use whatever weapon they have, and the weapon itself is considered a legendary type, and evolves and levels up and such along with them. But the king that summons him, it just seems he's always down on his luck. The guy that, because the king doesn't like him, the other three heroes despise him. The king's daughter accuses him of uh, bad stuff.
Impropriety.
Sure, we'll go with that word. And she actually steals the armor that she showed him where to buy and picked out for him, gives it to Lance Hero. So he, like, Lance Hero's getting all the benefit, being the top hero and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so Shield Hero is left just out to fend for himself, do everything. And he eventually starts making a little bit of headway, and somehow discovers a slave trader and purchases a demi-human, so humanoid person, but they have beast traits. Like, we'll say, like the first one he's shown is like a pretty, basically looks like a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I think, with a I think she was a raccoon or something. I forget her name already. But he picks her. She's like sickly and stuff. Ends up getting her a sword, so she's gonna do the fighting for him, and that way he gets the benefit of her fighting and the shared experience and all that.
Yeah.
And he ends up curing her sickness and stuff, keeps her in good health. Sorry. And so you just kind of see them going through their adventures, and it's always just, every time he's doing something good, but it's gonna backfire, because as soon as they find out he's Shield Hero, it's, oh, you're the demon hero shield user or whatever, and it's just, he's always down on his luck, but he's making things work, and starts getting to where he's hiding the shield and helping people out and going by a different name, and actually gets like recognition. And once he actually solves the issue with the kingdom, where where they no longer consider him the villain, it starts all working out for him really well. And where I'm at in there right now, it's, well, there's like 54 chapters out right now, and I went through all of that in like 2.5 days.
Wow, that's pretty quick.
So that, I took in a lot of information in a very small amount of time, and I'm very bad with names on there, but it's really interesting to me, and I might actually just go and watch the anime depending on how far they've progressed. So, yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Cool.
Cool.
What have I been playing? A couple things I want to talk about. The first one is a game called Venture Kid, which is coming out next week, I think. But there's no embargo or anything, so I can talk about it. It is on the Switch. I think it's $9, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. Venture Kid it's a Mega Man style game. Looks.
You found another one.
Yeah, I did. I found another one. I'm not going to say one game is better than the other one.
It's a $10 game.
It is. That's what I thought. It is a very NES looking game, like those those NES Mega Mans. It goes back to that sort of style. You play as a kid, I guess. I don't know if he's a robot kid. I don't think so. I think it's just a kid who has a little blaster gun, and you fight 8 bosses. So, sounds like Mega Man, right?
He's even wearing blue.
the where it differs in that is that, you know, Mega Man, the order of the bosses you fight is kind of like a puzzle if you don't have the list of the, you know, most efficient way to beat the bosses, and trying to figure out what Robot Master's weapon works against what other Robot Master. You don't have any of that in Venture Kid. It is a straight linear experience. So you go from one level to the next to the next. It's all on a map, and it unlocks different parts of the map as you complete levels. So you don't get to say, I want to use this one character's weapon against this other character. The weapon that you get at the end of a level will be the weapon that works best against the boss that you're going to fight in the next level. So,
so you always have the advantage?
You always have the advantage going into the boss fights. Boss fights in the game are not super difficult. I didn't have any real tough time with the bosses. A couple of them killed me once, but I was able to figure out the pattern in that fight. And then there were some boss fights I beat in like 6 seconds.
Nice.
So there was one, like, you're fighting this Phoenix type monster, and I had ice balls basically that I was throwing at them, and I was able to stand right next to the Phoenix boss, throw snowballs at them for 6 seconds, and beat them. I had to jump over them once and then turn around and face the other direction. But 6 or 7 seconds, and that boss fight was done. So, boss fights are not terribly difficult. The level structure, like I said, is completely linear. There's no jumping around the map to fight different bosses and things like that. The level designs themselves are pretty nice. You know, where like Mega Man games are mostly left and right, and occasionally you would go down. There are a few that go up, but mostly you would be moving left and right and then going down.
Right.
This game takes advantage of all 4 major directions. So there will be some places where you'll get to the end of a left-right section and it doesn't look like you can go anywhere, because normally you're thinking you would go down at that point, but you can see there's a little spot up at the top of the level. You jump up and there's a platform that is waiting right there for you, and you continue on through the level. There are also some sections that are really nice, sort of maze-like sections, where if you take this maze section, you'll come up to a place where there's lots of health drops sitting there, or the money currency in the game, which I haven't figured out a use for what I think is money, but I'm not entirely sure that it is. There's a counter that keeps counting up, but I haven't seen anything in the game that I can use that for. But these little maze-like sections, you'll go through one, and it'll basically loop back to where you were when you took that little side path. So you're not going to miss anything by taking that, because it's going to bring you right back to where you were. I really like the level design. I really like the visual style. That NES style, it holds to that pretty nicely. I've played some other Mega Man style games recently, which I think are a little better, but like the one that you and I played a couple weeks ago.
Right.
But this is really good. It's not as difficult as those. There's not going to be a lot of places where you're going to die and think it might be unfair, or any really difficult enemies that you come up against that take a lot of your health, but you're able to take them down. I never had less than half health on my first run through a level when I got to a boss fight. And you'll know you're coming up to a boss fight in any level, because there will be like 4 or 5 health, hearts on the ground somewhere. And hearts are the health, and that you pick up hearts and it fills up a heart meter at the top of the screen. So if you get to a spot and you see 3 or 4 or 5 hearts laying on the ground, you know that the next screen is the boss fight.
So it's super obvious you're going to be fighting something.
It is very, very obvious you're going to be fighting something, and I am breezing through the game. I think I finished the main bulk of the game in a little over an hour. So it's not a hard game, but it is. If you like Mega Man style games, you might be interested in checking it out. I think it's going to work more for people who are younger, who maybe find Mega Man a little difficult. But if you want to show them a Mega Man style game, this is a good one to play. It's called Venture Kid. It's $9. It's good for an hour or two of fun if you're looking for something that's not going to tax you too much. If you get what I'm saying. So I've been playing that, and then the other thing that I've been playing is the VR update for Mario and Zelda dropped this week, and I downloaded both those updates. Didn't have any problem downloading those updates, like I had last week with Joker DLC. The game's updated just fine.
Good.
And I played through both of the. Didn't play through Zelda VR because that's multi-dozen hour experience if you're going to try to play through the whole game like that.
Wait, so it is the whole game?
It is the whole game.
Oh wow!
Because what it does is it basically just gives you a 3D visual. It is not VR in any way. You're not looking around the world. It does have some head tracking because it's got motion control aiming, but turn that off the second you can because you will vomit violently if you have it turned on.
Tony, speaking from experience.
Yeah, because it doesn't match what you think it should. So like in normal VR situations, if you turn your head to the right, your entire view turns to the right. And it feels like what would happen if you actually turn your head to the right or to the left. In this, you know how in most games when you turn a camera to the right, it kind of swings everything around? And it pivots from one place in the sort of from the character's perspective, because the character's always got to be in the middle of the screen, and so it pivots everything around the character. That's what it does in this. It's just like playing the game normally with a dual stick controller. So if you turn the camera to the right, the entire thing pivots around, it's this weird out of body experience, and your brain doesn't know what to do with that information.
Sounds horrible. Sounds incredibly unpleasant.
It was. I'm not gonna lie. So the first thing I did when I got the chance was turn that motion control aiming off, because your brain cannot compute what is happening when that happens.
Are you sure it wasn't doing this because of the inverted controls you love so much?
No, it wasn't doing that because of the inverted controls. I don't have left and right inverted, only up and down. I'm not a psycho. But then if you've got that turned off, it's basically just like holding a 3DS an inch from your face. Is what it is. It just gives you a 3D stereoscopic image, and that's all it does. But it's not a pleasant 3D stereoscopic experience. I can see playing in some short spurts, but there is no way I would want to play, an hour or 2 hours until the battery runs out in the Switch 2.5 hours after you start. Because it was not fun. The resolution's not high enough. It's okay, but there are some things that you can tell this game was not meant to be played in a 3D view with the screen an inch from your face. Because shadows and grass are the worst things I have ever seen in my life in 3D. I I don't even know exactly how to describe these, but what's the best way to do it? Because it's weird. It's very flickery. So you know how have you seen those like from like 80s movies, those dance floors that are, you know, lots of different colored squares that just flash constantly? It's like that, but black and green with shadows and grass, and it's just flickering back and forth all over the place. At a very high rate of speed. That's what it is. It's like a strobe light version of that.
It's like
Again, I shall say this sounds horribly unpleasant.
from what you're saying, it sounds like it's rendering the shadow for one eye but not the other. And so what it does, it's like interchanging them really quickly for you when you're looking at it.
Maybe, but all it's doing is it's just duplicating the image. So it's not like active shutter stuff where it's flashing back and forth really quickly. You're looking at the same image, just slightly askew from each other. There are some other things that just don't work. Character models in the distance are just blobs of Play-Doh. That's all they are. It's hard to tell what anything is in the distance. There was one point I saw it looked like a little brown blob of Play-Doh, like bounce. You know how you make Play-Doh snakes, and you can take them and make them, you know, just move back and forth. There was this little brown blob of Play-Doh off in the distance. I got close and found out it was a squirrel, but I couldn't tell that from from any sort of distance. If it got more than a few feet away from Link, it was a blobby mess. And that thing could have been a bokoblin, and I wouldn't have known it until I was right up on top of it. The field of view is a little wider than what you would want. And then so like things are off on or just outside your peripheral vision, but you can still see that it's there. But if you try to turn your head to see that, the camera doesn't move because it's not a VR camera. It's just a 3D picture of the screen. And so there are things that you can't see on the edges of the screen that you should be able to see. Like your health bar, on the left side, the most extreme left side of the health bar, the last couple of hearts are cut in half, so it's hard to see those. It gets rid of everything on the HUD except for your hearts. So the mini map down in the bottom, your day-night cycle, your temperature meter, all of that stuff that would normally be there is just gone. I guess they're trying to get rid of everything that would get in the way, basically.
Yeah.
It's not really as bad as I'm making it sound. It's more uncomfortable than anything else. And maybe part of it is because I was laying on the couch with the VR stuff stuck to my head, laying down, you know, because I don't have a strap for it. I haven't fashioned a strap for the Labo VR headset.
You mean you didn't do what the rest of the internet did and just make a duct tape thing on your face?
I haven't. I need to do something to give myself a strap for that, but I haven't. And so most of my experience, I did end up playing after the first time I played, which was the first time I played was like 5 minutes, and that was it. I could not play any more than that. I tried again the next night, spent about half an hour in it, and it was more of a slight discomfort than an overwhelming sense of I want to puke my guts out. Because there were moments, especially if I was turning the camera in any way, where my brain was like, something's not right, but I can't tell what it is. And so I'd get this slight feeling of nausea, and then it would go away after a few seconds. And so it was just that for half an hour. This really is just sort of, my brain knew something wasn't right, but it couldn't tell what was wrong. So it's definitely an odd experience. I could not play this for any extended period of time. There's no way I would play through this entire game in the VR mode. Mario's a little better. because it does basically put you into a sort of VR experience. You have complete control over the camera. The camera turns and moves with your head the way you expect it to. But with that, you are this fixed point in the world, and you just look around you. The camera doesn't move with Mario at all. So he can be completely off the screen, and then it just puts a little bubble with his head saying, "Hey, Mario's over here. You might want to turn your head and look this direction."
Can't tell me what to do.
And those are really short experiences. It puts these musicians around 3 of the different levels, and it puts you in a really small section of the level. You can't travel outside of that I've been able to see. So that works a little better, but there are times where you just can't see Mario at all because he's gone behind like a hill or one of those hat houses in the Cap Kingdom, because the camera doesn't follow him at all, so you can lose track of him that way. But those experiences are really short. They take like 5 minutes to do each of the levels. But the biggest issue I have with them is that neither of these games is designed to be played in VR, so they're just kind of shoehorning this VR thing into them to give you some extra content that you might like to play. I'd be much more interested in seeing what they do if they design a Zelda game with VR in mind, or they design a Mario game from the ground up with VR in mind, because I think it would be a much more pleasant experience. The Labo stuff, I don't know if you've played any of it, but all of the Labo VR stuff feels good. It feels really nice. I never get that sense of nausea playing any of that stuff. I can, move my head around. I can do everything in any of those Labo games with no problem, and it feels great. It looks great. They're designed with the limitations of that cardboard VR headset in mind, so it makes way more sense than Mario or Zelda does.
Makes sense, yeah.
So for free updates, they're not bad, but there's no way I'd play either of these for any extended periods of time. Do you guys have any other questions about the VR stuff?
Not really. I mean, it sounds about like what I expected. I feel bad for the people who purchased it just for Zelda, just because they used that as a way to push the kit.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a bummer that it came out and it's half broken.
Like, if they made something like Link's crossbow training for VR, that I think would be amazing. But
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild in VR is not a great experience. So
Because it's just being attached to an already existing system and it's not being done properly.
exactly. But I would play Link's crossbow training in VR all day long, because that would work. I think they could take Link's crossbow training from the Wii, slap it into VR, and it would be great. So
I'd be okay with that. Or if they put stinking Pokemon Snap,
Oh man.
they can make Pokemon Snap work so well.
yeah, well, I thought Pokemon Snap should have been a Wii U game, but having a VR camera now
Yeah.
for the Switch, there's
Yeah.
no excuse not to have Pokemon Snap on the Switch.
That needs to happen.
So
It will.
I'd love for them to revisit the
Fatal Frame.
no, well, Fatal Frame, I would never play it, but I'm
Tony's
talking
gonna
the
review Fatal Frame. Perfect.
yeah, no, that ain't happening. The Virtual Boy stuff. So, just for, if nothing else, for the nostalgia experience, for the novelty of it, having those in an updated VR environment could be interesting. So, but that is it for me. So let's take a quick break, and we will come back and talk about the news. All right. So, news time. And our first news story just says Persona over and over and over again. So that's all you need to know. There's a Persona game that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's a Persona game Tony's going to play.
Oh, I am going to play the heck out of this Persona game.
Agreed.
I've never played through any Persona game, but I'm going to play through this one. I have no excuse not to pick up Persona 5 because it's like $20 on PS4 now. But
Yep.
I've been waiting for a Switch release, and nobody's announcing a Switch release for Persona 5.
Aww.
So I may just have to just bite the bullet and pick up Persona 5 on PS4.
See, he shoots straight for the heart. Every time he opens his mouth, he knows where to aim. Goes straight.
It's because I've been playing stuff in VR lately, so I've had practice aiming things. No, Persona 5S was officially unveiled this week, and it is Persona 5 Scramble, which is an interesting name. It's not what I think anyone expected.
Nope.
Because is it being developed by Koei Tecmo? Or are they just helping with some stuff?
They're the Muso people, so...
They are, yeah. I'm assuming this is like Hyrule Warriors, Fire Emblem stuff, where they're doing the development, and then Atlas/Sega is...
directing them.
Yeah. So, but yes, this is a Persona Muso game. So, Dynasty Warriors set in the Persona world is what this is. And I'm going to play the heck out of this because that sounds fantastic.
Someone said there was an English version or English dub version of that trailer that was released. I forgot to watch it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the English version of the trailer.
But I was told the plot on there is the Phantom Thieves are being blamed for the shadows taking over in their area, so they're gonna beat all the shadows away.
And there will be lots of shadows.
So there you go. It's a very basic plot just on short notice, but because we don't know the actual details, but for the most part, that's...
Yeah, because this has not been officially announced for the West yet. This is just Japan only.
If it doesn't come out here, people will riot.
Oh, they will.
They're already rioting because it's not P5 OG.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that this will come over here. But yeah, it's going to be great. Koei Tecmo has done some really good stuff bringing other franchises into the Dynasty Warriors formula. And Persona, while I would have never thought that, I think will work really well, and they'll do some interesting things with it.
I hope the music's going to be like fantastic. Like, I was happy with the music from Hyrule Warriors, but that loop was just too small. And knowing that Atlas really enjoys their music, and this is a Persona game, so that loop's going to have to be like way longer of just some awesome music to fight to on there.
Yeah. All the Persona games have some fantastic soundtracks, so they have to do something, with music in this. I think Persona fans are going to...
heads will roll.
Yeah.
It needs to be good.
So yeah, not a lot of details are known at the moment other than it's coming at some point. And it is coming to PS4 and Switch, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. That'll be fantastic. One system we know it won't be coming to, though, is the 3DS. Because nothing's coming to the 3DS. And Nintendo this week confirmed that they have nothing in the near future or the far future to announce for the 3DS.
That's low, Tony.
Sorry. There's no way to make bad news pleasant, so you just got to jump right in there.
It's disappointing.
The system is 8 years old now.
It'll live forever.
It's time, man. I'm sorry.
No, I'm
It's
not
time.
letting it go. Until
It's
I get a
time.
new Animal Crossing, it is not leaving.
Yeah, and then once Animal Crossing comes to the Switch, you'd be like, 3D, what? What's that?
I don't know. I may still play. Like I said, I'm gonna make it through all the Yokai Watch games. That's my goal for the year. So
Especially because when Animal Crossing comes to the Switch, you know they're going to put out a Switch that has all the little Animal Crossing designs on the dock. And
oh, shut up! Please. Just stop! Just stop!
you know it's going to happen.
Oh, you're making my heart melt. You know what? It's you're right. You're right. If they make a Switch that looks like a Pop-Tart and it goes into the dock like a Pop-Tart goes into a toaster,
There's totally going to be a Pop-Tart
Oh,
Switch for Animal Crossing.
oh, Tony, I don't
Shannon,
want you to be right, but I know you're probably right.
They did it for Pokemon Let's Go. You know they're going to do it for Animal Crossing.
I know.
Shannon, you know how easy on the Switch it will be for you to have multiple villages or whatever, towns?
Shut up. Don't talk. Just
You can have 8 profiles and all of them can have their own town.
dude, okay. Right now, at this moment, I have 4 towns on my 3DS.
Oh my gosh.
Just it's a problem. We don't talk about it. Just man.
So,
Animal Crossing.
and
I need
Animal
a
Crossing,
more portable Switch. That's the thing. Animal Crossing on 3DS is so good because of how portable the system is.
well, Shannon,
I know.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but Nintendo also confirmed this week they have no plans to announce a new Switch.
Okay, but that's just like them saying we have no plans to launch a new system, and then 3 months later, hey, we have a new system coming out in
Well,
May,
that's true. That's true.
March or whatever.
Nintendo has lied straight to our faces one day, and then the next day announced something. So
Yeah, so they have no. Don't ever take anything they say outside of a conference seriously, or a direct.
well, I know. That's especially with Nintendo. Of any of the major manufacturers, I think Nintendo, if it is not being directly mentioned in a direct or something like that, they could change at any moment. So they have nothing coming to the 3DS. I think the 3DS, there has been, when I get those weekly press releases of what's coming out on the eShop, and there has not been a 3DS game in months.
The last 3DS game was Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn,
So
and that was in March, middle of March.
okay, so that was a month ago.
Yep.
But that's been basically it. I get those every week, and there's never here's the stuff coming to Switch, and then here's the stuff coming to the 3DS. It's only Switch at this point. And if you look at their upcoming software on the website, I don't think there's anything. Maybe a couple small titles still that are coming to the 3DS at some point, but yeah, that's it. And then now they're saying we are not working on a new system at the time. Both of those Switch models, I think, are going to happen at some point, both the Switch Pro and the Switch Mini.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to get announced at E3. I think it's going to be later in the year at the earliest, and then early next year, probably one of those systems will come out. Or both.
Surprise!
And also, Sony this week was asked about PS5, and they say they have no news about a PS5 coming anytime in the next 12 months.
Aww.
So the PS5 is still quite a ways away, according to Sony. We shall see. I think it is definitely, it's probably, I'm not going to say definitely, more likely that we'll get one or both of the new Switches before the PS5 would be released.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Nintendo's really going to have to, more than the Switch Mini, I think if they want to continue to compete and continue to get those third-party games, they're going to have to put out a Switch Pro that beefs up the horsepower of the system a little bit. Because the PS5 and whatever the next Xbox is, the Xbox 2, the Xbox 1220, I don't know what they're going to call it. When those systems come out, that's going to increase the gap between them and Nintendo even further. And while we're getting a lot of third-party games on the Switch now, if that gap gets that much bigger and it becomes that much harder to get games on the Switch, you're going to see third-party support start to dry up. And with Nintendo being as successful with sales as they've been, I think they're going to have to continue that momentum and continue to get those third-party games once the next PlayStation and Xbox come out. So, but no news coming anytime soon, according to them. And I don't think anybody's asked Microsoft anything about a new Xbox in a while, because all we've got is the Xbox SAD. So,
yeah.
And then last news story, if anybody is interested in getting a free trial of Switch Online, even if you've had a free trial recently, I believe this still works. If you download the Mario Tennis Aces demo that is available right now from the eShop, and you can play that from now through May 3rd. If you download that demo, you get a free 7-day trial for Switch Online.
That's cool.
So Nintendo wants you to be able to check out Mario Tennis Aces, and without Switch Online, you can't really do much in that game. So they're giving everybody that plays the demo a free 7-day trial for Switch Online, which then gives you access to all of the NES games as well as Tetris 99, things like that. So, and if you haven't played Tetris 99, play Tetris 99 because that game is great.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
It is really good. So that is it for the news. So let's move on to listener feedback. And our first one this week comes from Cole via Facebook, who wants to know what superhero game is the best. Marvel Ultimate Alliance is an example, but a bad example, according to him.
The Infamous series.
Okay, you're cheating.
Not really.
I mean,
it is a concurrent story going from 1 to 2 to other 2.
Second Son and First Light.
Well, First Light's DLC.
I guess that I haven't played it, but that Marvel Spider-Man game is probably
actually that's pretty good, yeah.
On par for a good answer here. I did play a Spider-Man game on PS2 that I liked a whole lot, but I can't remember which one it was.
Spider-Man 2?
It might have been.
If it had really good swinging around New York, then it was Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
Because someone locked themselves in their cubicle to work and make that swinging work really good.
There were some good ones on the Super Nintendo.
Ultimate Spider-Man. That's
Maximum
the one that I really
Carnage.
Yeah.
That's the one I was trying to think of a minute ago. I knew it had Carnage in it.
It's pretty good, but I mean...
Speaking of that, I watched Venom this week. That is a mess of a movie.
I still haven't seen that.
I thought it was pretty good.
I think it is a huge mess of a movie. And you can't have Venom without Spider-Man. I'm sorry.
You can.
Just doesn't. No, you can't.
Have you ever heard of Agent Venom?
No, I haven't.
It's what he does when he's not evil and hunting Spider-Man.
Does he wear a leather duster and an awesome hat?
When he feels like it.
Okay.
I've never actually read it. I've just seen him show up from other series I've read. And then there's Anti-Venom.
Any other superhero games? Can't think of anything.
Well, I mean, it
Anything
depends
else?
on your definition of superhero.
Superman 64.
Oh my god.
Uh,
Man, that speed run that they did at GDQ one year.
There you go. But speaking of superheroes, our last one comes from Nathan via Facebook who wants to know if we've seen Endgame yet. I have not.
I have
Yes.
not.
I went and saw it last night.
Shannon is the only one of us who have seen it. I do know what happens. I have seen and read all about what happens, but I have not seen the movie myself.
I went and saw it. I intentionally deleted Twitter from my phone for the.
Just
I
don't
deleted
open
Twitter
it. You
from
don't
my
have to
phone
delete it.
I deleted it for Thursday and Friday because I wanted to intentionally avoid any spoilers. And
I've
I'm
been
glad I
on
did.
Twitter. There's no spoilers on there as far as I know.
Look, I've had other movies just ruined for me by jerks on Twitter, so I did the best
Just
thing I could
block
possibly
these people that are jerks.
No, I just deleted Twitter and then reinstalled it this morning, so
And see, I intentionally went and sought out spoilers because I'm not going to see the movie till it comes out to streaming services. But I want to know what happens. I don't care about spoilers. They don't affect my enjoyment of a movie in any way. Knowing what's going to happen lets me focus on other things that are happening in the movie. I don't care to know ahead of time what happens.
Dang it, Ethan!
You can't be posting stuff that other people can't see, Ethan.
My little
my-
sister just sent that to me.
How much would you give me for the Infinity Gauntlet?
Let me call in an expert and we'll figure that out.
Oh my gosh.
I know a guy. He can be here in 5 minutes. That is, okay. Yeah, that's the perfect way to end the show. So, thank you, Shannon, for being on the show this week.
It was a pleasure, as always.
And thank you, Ethan, as well.
I have to remember to put this picture on the end of the show now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise people are going to be very confused.
It's your own fault.
If you want to reach out to us, we have tons of new ways to do so. You can email us at podcast@procgent.com. That's PROCGENT.com. You can send us a voicemail if you want by clicking on the voicemail link on the right side of the website. You can send us voicemails up to 90 seconds in length, and we'll play those on future episodes of the show and respond to the questions that you have. If you like what we do here, you can now support us on Patreon, patreon.com/pgint. Patreon supporters will get a video version of the podcast a day early. These will normally go out on Tuesdays. Patreon supporters will get them on Monday. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/progenint. Check out our YouTube channel that we've got and see the content we've got going on up there. And then we still do have the Facebook group where you can interact with us on a daily basis as well.